everybody, here we are again. Welcome back to the Square of the Circle Music Channel. I have a very special guest today, one of my closest, if not my best friend of all time. Let's all warmly welcome my friend, Mr. Nick Phillips.
Hello.
Long story short, Nick and I, we go way back. I wanted to bring him on the show because this is a very special list today, a top 10 list. Not a top 10. We're not really doing a pecking order, I don't think. I didn't really do one.
I didn't do one.
I don't know if you did one, but we're amassing 10 albums that we feel are perfect. Just perfect to our sensibilities. What we kind of, when we think of something that's, perfectly crafted, not necessarily to anyone else, but to ourselves. And it doesn't have to, this is a highly subjective list here because, I didn't put 10 things on my list that I think are the best albums of all time.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I kind of did the same thing where I approached it like, what is an album that has like a fully formed vision?
Right.
Like not necessarily, they aren't necessarily my all-time favorite albums or my all-time favorite bands, although those make an appearance. I just wanted to pick albums that I thought were fully formed for the most part and really cohesive and had like a full idea behind it.
Right. Starts out of the gates strong.
Right.
Not even, not one track on the album being like, considered to be any kind of like a weak track or a stinker or whatever you want to call it. That was primarily my criteria because I could get really sentimental and I could get really like, oh, I just really love this because it's so just me, you know what I mean? But like, I wanted to get way more in detail with it. I wanted to get to the point to where it was like, no, this is like solid from beginning to end. May it be 4 tracks, may it be 10 tracks, may it be, I think I have a pick on there that's like probably fucking like 16 tracks.
Right.
And it's just like, how did they do this? How did they amass, almost 2 hours of material that could just like, it could just send you home just in tears.
Right.
So, but yeah, that was the idea. We talked about it. Nick, instantaneously showed interest in what I was doing. He's like, man, that looks like so much fun. I was like, hey, you gotta come and do the thing. So I was like, I gave him a couple options. I was like, hey, let's talk about this, or hey, let's talk about this one. So I think we both agreed that it'd be really fun together to do what we consider to be perfect albums.
Right. And I really appreciate you letting me be on your channel and on your show.
Of course.
And when I saw the first video, I immediately texted Aaron like, hey, if you ever want a guest, like I'd be willing to do it,
It was an immediate like, yep, you got it, green light, we're doing it. So we set a date, we thought about it, we painstakingly put our list together. It took me a while. I think Nick even mentioned, you said you were...
I added one yesterday. I swapped one out yesterday, so,
Cool. So we're gonna have, I'm hoping, very, very similar, but also kind of mirrored in a sense of like, you can tell that we come from a lot of the same ideas and concepts and roots and enjoy the same parts of music and in the same concepts. But I have a feeling that our lists are going to be fairly differing.
Yeah, I have a feeling too.
We didn't talk about it. We didn't.
Not at all.
Yeah, we didn't get together and talk about it. So I have no idea what he's got in his stack.
Right.
And vice versa. A little bit of history about us. We, like I was saying, we go way back. We grew up together in Springfield, Oregon. I've known this guy now, this is 30 years.
Yeah.
We've known each other.
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah.
We met in the 6th grade, and immediately, I don't know what made us gravitate toward each other, but we met each other, and we could stand each other, and
and we still can.
But it was music.
Right.
It was music that brought us together, because I noticed that you had a certain flair to you. I don't know if you felt that way about me, but you had flair. And you were a rock and roll kid, and I wanted to be a rock and roll kid, and I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He had, the cool clothes, the cool hair, and immediately, like, I knew he had great fucking taste in music, and that's what we've done for 30 years, is we've just been bouncing shit off of each other. And I can credit this motherfucker for some of, like, the greatest shit that I've ever discovered in my life, and music that has made me a whole as a person. I can attribute to you.
Well, that's very flattering.
And your fantastic taste. I've always called him, he's my watchtower. Like, he's like, I have to get on the horn and I have to be like, hey Nick, you heard of these guys? You have? Good. Then I know they're good. And discoveries especially too, because you have always been just a wishing well of just like great, just like interesting shit.
And I still think there's, old and new, I still think there's a lot of music that's coming out today. I mean, I have some pretty contemporary albums that came out, 2 years ago, a year ago, 3 years ago that are on my list that I think, music is still being made that's really great and excellent.
Drop your pants.
Right.
My list, not so much.
Yeah.
My list, I wouldn't say classics, and that's what
Right.
a lot of people are going to kind of like thumb their noses, I think, because you're not going to, on my list, you're not going to have a ton of like the monster classics that you would expect out of maybe a guy like me,
Right.
or like people who appreciate and love rock and roll music. Like, you're not going to see just like the classics, because that's not what we do. That's not what I do.
I have a classic or two.
Yeah, well,
on my
good.
list. Yeah,
Good.
I have a couple classics.
But we've always been off that beaten path. We come from the 80s and 90s, and so we were always kind of like, fuck you, we're going to forge our own path, and we're going to like what we like. Even though, of course, still, there will be, we're going to get into it.
Yeah.
We're going to get into it. You want to start, or should I start?
I'll start. I'm just glad
Nixon,
we both wore flannel. I was curious if we were both.
Right.
Yeah.
We're from the 90s. We're from the Pacific Northwest. It worked out well.
Okay, so my first pick is from a band called Health, and this album is called Death Magic. It came out in 2015, and it's. I mean, I guess in this discussion we're going to get into genre names and what genres are and what they mean. I would just consider this an electronic rock album. There's elements of noise rock. They came from Los Angeles and the noise rock scene. And this album in particular, I feel like they really kind of honed their craft on taking elements of noise and making them into pop songs. So the majority of the album is pretty hooky. The vocals are very, I would say, kind of monotone and androgynous, and they just kind of float over the music with really kind of heavy, I would almost call it industrial beats. Like there's kind of like an older Nine Inch Nails influence on it. The guitars don't really sound like guitars. I've seen them live. I saw them a couple of years ago, and man, they're incredible live. I picked a lot of bands that I've seen live, which also adds to what I like about the album and the bands. This one in particular, I used to listen to it in my car so loud it would make me nauseous. Like I would just have it so loud. It was one of the first albums. I bought it on iTunes, and it was the first time I saw an album say mastered for iTunes. So I don't know what that means, but whatever it meant at that time was I could turn it up really, really loud, and it would just like...
It won't destroy your speakers.
Yeah, and it would just like, I would be immersed in it, and my body would be kind of like immersed in the sound and the noise and all of it. So Health, Death Magic...
It's called Death Magic?
Death
This
Magic.
is fantastic. I've never heard of this.
Right.
So thank you. This is
Yeah.
2015, you said?
2015. They put out albums. They had albums out before. They toured with Nine Inch Nails, which was probably some of an influence for this album. They have put out albums since. They're incredible live. One of the guys in the band's like super tall with really long hair, and I would say half the show he's not even playing an instrument. He's just flipping his hair around. It's got elements of dance music, noise, industrial rock. It's just overall like a great album.
Cool, man. Well, my first pick, we were just going on about how I was saying how I didn't pick any classics. I'm full of shit, because this is about as classic as it gets. Discussing us being from the 90s, and this is part of like probably one of the biggest parts of my young adulthood, teenage years. You're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. Everyone's gonna roll their fucking eyes. But this album, Pearl Jam's, first not self-titled, titled 10, but their first release, 1991, Pearl Jam's 10. It doesn't get any more in the perfect for me. The first time I heard this, it was the year you and I met Simon, our mutual friend Simon, played a tape of this for me, and I had never heard anything like it as of thus far. I was just kind of like riding my bike around listening to Michael Jackson still,
Right.
Weird Al Yankovic,
Right.
And whatever my parents had on the radio or whatever they were spinning, mom was listening to show tunes and whatever else, a little bit of rock and roll, a little bit of contemporary, all kinds of great shit. Dad was listening to like soft jazz and whatever, Pat Metheny and John Coltrane or whatever, and this really shook my boat. I didn't know what to think. and it just, from the moment you put it on, it's just monster track after monster track. It kind of like begins to kind of like, I wouldn't say mellow down, but it's like, dude, once upon a time I could, even flow, alive, why go home, and then black. It's like, what the fuck? Just like, just monster tracks. And then I'm sure you probably remember the first time you saw the video on MTV of Jeremy.
Yeah,
how
for sure.
Creepily that shook you.
Right.
And how that was the end for me. This album's perfect. The production, this wasn't Brendan O'Brien's first album with them. I don't know who produced it. That's right. It says right there. His name was Rick Parashar. Rick Parashar. And so I don't think Brendan O'Brien. I don't think Brendan O'Brien started producing stuff for them until the second album, until Versus. And of course he was, made notorious for kind of giving them their sound. But I like this one so much better. It's so much more raw. It's so much more dark.
Yeah.
Every single track. And then you put it on side 2, it goes with that really slow start into that song Oceans, and just kind of like, the song Porch, the song Garden. It doesn't stop. It's just beautiful, dark, deep poetry. And then what the fuck, ending with that song Release. Like, wow. This song changed my fucking life. Or excuse me, this album changed my life. Changed my existence. I'll say it outright, loud and proud. Pearl Jam always was, always is, and always will be my favorite rock and roll band. When I'm talking about hard rock,
sure,
they're my favorite band. So, that's my first perfect pick of the night.
And that's one of the albums I feel like we kind of bonded over as kids. Like we got into music like around, same thing. I didn't really have too much of an opinion on music. I was listening to, not much, but like when Pearl Jam came out, it was something that I attached onto. And I revisited the song Black a couple of years ago, and man, that song is so heavy.
It's
and
pretty
good.
heavy.
I know.
It's pretty heavy. The whole album is, the whole B-side is like one long, dark, poetic fucking nightmare. Yeah. Like what those guys were going through. Like who knows? And especially of course Eddie Vedder, because he did all the, lyrical writing. Later years, everyone knows that they're notorious for sharing the album as much as possible. They all get to write songs and they all get to do the lyrics and whatever not. So, but that album,
incredible album, incredible bands, amazing guitar playing, amazing singing.
Yeah,
all of it. It's great. All right, I'm gonna leaf through my selections here. So, here's a classic album.
Yay! Of course.
Depeche Mode, Violator.
Yeah.
Depeche Mode is still my favorite band of all time. I've seen them several times.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen them 3 times.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I saw them pretty recently, a couple years ago.
Man.
This album came out in 1990. I wouldn't say this has like my favorite Depeche Mode songs, but I love this album. I think it's amazing, and I think maybe like Aaron was saying towards the beginning, like it may have benefited from a short track listing. There's only 9 songs on it, so they cut a lot of the fat, but it's got everything in it, and it doesn't sound, to me, it doesn't sound dated. It doesn't sound like they're an 80s band. I think the song like Personal Jesus, that song is like a blues rock riff, and it's got electronics over it, and it's got kind of like a stompy beat, but that guitar riff is a blues rock riff. So they really kind of and I think, the preceding albums and that, all of their albums I think have merit and have amazing songs on them, but this one I feel like they kind of like fully formed their vision, and it's just got so many incredible songs. I mean, there's like really good Martin Gore sung songs. He's the one who writes most of the music. Dave Gahan's singing is incredible on it. And even the songs that like musically didn't make a ton of sense to me, like how the song was written, they're still amazing songs. Like what they did on this album and the variation of it. Some of the songs are really layered and have a lot of nuance to them, and some of them are just totally minimal. Some of them are just like a couple of tracks, vocals, and then that's it. And so the production on it, I think Flood produced this one. No,
Really?
Or Alan Moulder. I'm not I'm not proving to be a very good Depeche Mode fan right now, but I think Alan Moulder or Flood or both of them produced this album. And he did a lot of stuff in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. Just a really killer album. I can almost promise you that you've heard the songs on the radio, even if you don't know the name Depeche Mode. So if you haven't heard it or you want to revisit it, this is an incredible album.
Almost positive, not to debase your pick because it's a fantastic fucking pick, but I'm sure that there's probably a billion people around the world that would have the same. It is absolutely a perfect,
for sure,
fucking perfect album.
And it was I guess their popularity kind of peaked
right then
on
really, wouldn't it?
Songs of Faith and Devotion, the album after.
That was like 88.
This was 90.
Songs of Faith and Devotion
was 92.
Oh, it was after
93.
Okay.
And they got a little more rock.
Okay.
It's still an amazing album. But I think this, it takes all the stuff from the synth pop and the electronic stuff.
Because I like Speak and Spell. That's
yes.
I have that tape in my truck. Yeah. And Finn loves it. My child loves it.
Yeah. Black I recently thought if they had stopped at Black Celebration and that was their last album, that would have been an incredible career.
Yeah.
Black Celebration is an amazing album, and then they did Music for the Masses, and then they did Violator, and just on and on and on, just brilliant songwriting.
And they're still touring, so that's awesome.
Yep.
Fucking great. Yeah, great pick. Cool. Well, all right. So I'm just eating my words here because what did I say? I was like, I don't really have any classics or whatever.
You might be starting with the classics.
This is a monster classic. Everyone knows my penchant for progressive rock. So this is probably quoted by many as being the greatest progressive rock album of all time. I wouldn't go as far as to say that personally, but this is a perfect album to me, from start to finish. The subtle genius, the artistry. It being their introductory album, I mean, give me a fucking break. Robert Fripp's genius, everybody's genius on this. What were the Giles brothers, right? The two Giles brothers, Robert Fripp, a few other players, and the madness of this, In the Court of the Crimson King, kind of a pseudo self-titled album by them. 1969, the moment you drop the needle, you hear the first track, 21st Century Schizoid Man. You familiar with the tune?
No, I'm not.
Once you heard it, you would recognize it.
Okay.
I mean, it's just immediate. It's a juggernaut of a song, and it's at being the first song on the album, you're just kind of wondering, what the fuck? Where the hell did this come from? What demons conjured this up? This is we're talking proto metal. Punk as fuck shit, and with, it's got saxophones and stuff, but it's just meaty, beefy, slappy in the face. And then the rest of the album is just a jazz progressive masterpiece, it taking into that colorful realm of they've been pulling bits and pieces from the moody blues that they love and pulling bits and pieces from all this, that Canterbury scene of the UK in the mid to late 60s, and just goes into this kind of just, pastiche of just surrealistic jazz, just absolute beauty. We're talking, of course, everyone knows the title track at the very end on the second side, but the Moonchild song and how talking about waiting for the love of a sun child, and the song Epitaph. Do me a favor.
I'll check it out.
You need to listen to the song Epitaph because
I'll have to review the video.
Such a telling tale of a song, and the modern day, the zeitgeist of what we're all going through right now, and what's happening as a civilization, as a people in this world, and that's what I can say about this album. It's just a very telling piece of artistry, and it's just as solid here in 2021 as it was in 1969 when this was put out. Just motherfucking groundbreaking, perfect from the beginning of A1 to the end of B2. I don't need to tell any of you to go out and get this album. An absolute masterpiece to me.
As a person who I couldn't name a King Crimson song, when I saw the cover, I knew that was a King Crimson album.
Yeah.
Like that's just like, it's a classic
eponymous
cover.
Yeah, like this was, it just it wrote the book in a lot of ways for a lot of people, and people that respect and love jazz and progression, progressive music. This was kind of like the beginning of a new era, jazz rock. Jazz rock was just born. Bam, they shat it out. 21st century schizoid man, like, wow. Yeah, amazing shit. So that's another pick for me. That's number 9 on the list. Perfect albums.
So I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper here into the horrors, primary colors. I never know how to say the name. Horrors. It always sounds like I'm saying it wrong.
The horrors?
Like horror.
Yeah, horror.
HORR.
Another one I've never heard of.
The Horrors.
Cool.
Primary Colors. This came out in 2009. They had an album before that was really kind of just, it was awesome. I love it. I forgot the name of it, but Strange House. And it was like garage rock. They came from like the London, late 2000s garage rock scene. Very goth looking, a lot of like dyed black hair, frilly, outfits. On this album, they definitely, like Aaron was saying, dug a little bit deeper. They dug into krautrock. Is that how you pronounce it? Krautrock? Krautrock.
Yeah.
They dug into that.
Yeah. They don't care. It's not offensive to them.
It's kraut or kraut?
It's kraut.
Kraut.
Like sauerkraut.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I pronounce it. I don't know. And it doesn't offend them. They're not offended by it. It's not
I don't think they'll be offended if I say that they're krautrock. Heavily influenced by My Bloody Valentine on the guitar. Lots of like shoegaze guitar. In 2009, I don't think people were really ripping off the Kevin Shields My Bloody Valentine guitar sound yet. So this was like the first album that I think a band called A Place to Bury Strangers kind of did it. It's called Glide Guitar, where they make it just sound warped. So this was kind of like one of the first bands and guitar players that like brought that style back. And it's kind of cool because they abandoned it.
The real shoegazy, like delay,
like
delay,
really like reverse reverb. Sounds like it's like warping, that guitar sound. I love this album. I used to listen to it every day for about a year. I saw them on this tour. They played the whole album front to back. Wow. And then they did an encore, like 2 or 3 of their old songs, which was great. Man, there's, tons of influences. There's like a spiritualized influence, spiritualized in Spaceman 3. There's a little bit of like 60s girl group vibe to it. And it's just everything on it is incredible. Like the production is incredible. There's a lot of like electronic influence on it too, but it's mainly, I would just call it like a shoegaze rock album. Like it's really good. My favorite song is I Can't Control Myself. It's just so it just brings that thing up inside me, when you feel it and you're just like, oh, this song is so good. Like this riff is so good. This album does it for me. My second favorite song is Ice Age or New Ice Age. I don't know. I feel like I'm not like the best fan because I don't remember like a ton of names or of albums and songs and stuff. I think it's called New Ice Age. That's an incredible song. The album closes with like a really long, kind of like heavily arpeggiated track that's just, it's called Sea Within a Sea. Like it's just really an incredible album. It's, I think it also benefits from a shorter playlist. But if you like krautrock, shoegaze, whatever, I think, and they've gone on to do some really incredible stuff. I think they have 3 or 4 albums after this. All of them are good. All of them have like amazing songs on it. But this one, I think that they just, from start to finish, it's just excellent. There's not a bad song on it.
Sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, check it out.
Well. Okay, what do I got next? All right, more staples, more classic staples. I wouldn't say classic. This is definitely not classic, but it's modern day classic. Meat and potatoes. Like, yeah, you're definitely gonna understand this one. So, the first Audio Slave album. I mean, give me a break, right? It
rocks.
More than rocks. Yeah. This is, I mean, there's 16 tracks. There's got to be at least 16 tracks. This is a double LP. They could have easily made 2 albums when they first put this out. What was it? It was probably 2003? 2002, 2003. It was 2002. I almost shit myself, of course, being a giant Soundgarden fan, giant Rage Against the Machine fan. I didn't see this coming. I don't know if you did. But when we were 22, 23, like, I was just, like, dropping out of college, and I was focusing more on just, like, hanging out at the river and drinking beer and whatever else. Right. But we were doing all kinds of crazy shit. But this just, man, it just hit me like a wet sack. I don't know what, man, right across the face. Chris Cornell's voice had matured so much. Didn't he did a solo album when Soundgarden disbanded. He did his first solo album, I think, which was heavy, primarily like acoustic-y, kind of like, he was getting like really good looking, and he was just, you know what I mean? You know, he was just getting that like smoky kind of like older man kind of thing. And everyone, all the men and all the women were just like, oh my God, Chris Cornell. But then he shacked up with fucking Rage Against the Machine, you know, and it's like, Tom Morello, how does that guy pull guitar riffs out of his ass? Like, the Wizard of fucking Oz. I don't know how he does it. Like, and this album is just chock full of nuts, man. Like, it never gets stale. It never gets old. Track to track to track. It's like that Pearl Jam album the songs that all these people you'll recognize. I won't say there's a weak track on this album. I don't think there is, because I think they're all solid as fuck. But I won't say that I really, really like the more popular tracks, the radio ones, the Stone, Like a Stone.
Oh, I love that song.
A lot of people do, and I understand why. That's so why I'm not dogging shit, because I understand why people like it. I come from like, you know, a little bit of like what's in my head and heart, and I like things, you know, not so utterly simplistic and so palpable and so like, you know, or palatable, I meant to say. So not so just kind of like, you know, user friendly. Yeah, this is a great user friendly album because everyone can stomp their foot. You know, we're talking blues rock, but not boring old stale dad blues rock. Like it's inventive and it's fucking almost metal, basically. Yeah, you know, hard rock. 90s metal, early 2000s, very hard rock. I never wanted to classify Rage Against the Machine and or Soundgarden as metal, because I don't really feel that they were metal bands.
There's elements of metal, but
certainly.
I wouldn't, I definitely wouldn't.
Definitely elements, but I people wanted to just kind of lump those late 90s bands, mid 90s bands into the metal genre for some reason. And I was just kind of like, you know, whatever. It just, like I said, this could have been 2 albums, you know. And then the I Am the Highway song, another one of those is like, I'm not going to say it's a weak track because this is a perfect album. But it's one of those I'm like, okay, everyone loves it. I kind of like it. But then, you know, Exploder, Hypnotize, Bring It Back Alive, Light My Way. I thought that was going to be the end of the album, was Light My Way. And I'm just like, God damn, what a great song. And then they mellow it all down with the get yourself a car, drive it all along. Ooh, ooh. I'm like, okay, cool, that's the end of the album. But then it's not. In the last remaining light, like, talk about just a subtle, absolute piece of beauty. That's the most telling song to me about Chris Cornell, and God rest his soul. But what an amazing genius of a musician. All of these guys, you know, all the guys from Rage, you know, Tim Comerford, Brad Wilk, and Tom Morello. Match made in heaven, these 4 guys, dude. Just stomping, killer shit. Perfect, absolutely perfect album. For all of us that were kind of from that era and kind of helped make that era, you know, it felt great to be a part of this shit. Coming into adulthood. You're like, this is like, you know, this isn't a teenage, you know, high school album. This was a mature album to me. Like, this was mature fucking punch you in the face rock and roll, like real rock.
It kind of got me into accepting supergroups. I don't think at that point in my life I was
I never even thought of it that way.
Supergroups are lame. What
you know? I never even thought of it that way for some reason.
Yeah, just
this
like
seems so organic to me. It seems organic and it seems so true to life, and I never even thought about it like it's a supergroup. But you're right, it totally is a fucking supergroup. Because it wasn't like a mismatch of a bunch of different dudes from different bands. It was like one band, and they're like, hey Chris, come over here and just kind of hang with us for a little bit, you know? What a sexy, fucking awesome album. Fantastic album, so.
Great album.
Yeah.
Good pick.
Thank you.
All right, let's see what I got here. I'm gonna go with a band called Alcest. I don't know. I sent them to Aaron a couple of weeks ago. I've only recently discovered them. Maybe like 3 months ago. The album is called...
Did you send me a link?
I sent you a link. It's called Kadoma, I believe that's how you pronounce it. It is, again, you know, some of this stuff is just, the genres are like basically, you know, the same. This is a shoegaze influenced album. They kind of were the first band to do the genre called black gaze. So they merged black metal and shoegaze.
Sure.
So I think Deaf Heaven is probably the most popular / notorious band of the genre. Alcest kind of created the genre. So, but this album was the first album that I heard from them. Is kind of a departure from that. There's not a ton of like the screaming, the black metal howl that he can do. That's really good, and it's on, you know, some of the earlier albums and the album that came after this. This is kind of like, it reminds me of like a metal M83. So if the band M83 was a metal band, the band Mew, do you remember Mew?
Mew, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it's like if Mew was a metal band.
Okay.
So they're French, and he sings in French, so I don't know what he's saying. But the harmonies are great. The guitar riffs are amazing. It's kind of, I haven't listened to a ton of heavier guitar music in a while, and Alcest got me back into that style of guitar music. And the songs are long, you know. I think the shortest song is maybe 7 minutes long. So, you know, 7, 8, 9 minutes. I guess the ending track is like a little, I guess I would call it a vignette. It's like a, you know, a short little, you know, 4-minute thing. But the songs themselves are 7, 8, 9 minutes. There's really good drumming, really good, just kind of, I would say there's like some prog influence in it, not with the time signatures, but just like the concept. You know, I think that when I heard this album, I listened to it start to finish, and I was like, man, this is really cohesive. I read an interview where he said he based the concept of the album off the movie Princess Mononoke, which I've never seen. It's an animated film, which is kind of reflective of the album art. And he's singing in French, so I don't know how it relates to the movie. But the overall atmosphere, you know, there's some like mellow kind of ambient, you know, phases of the songs, and then there's some like just really heavy rock, like metal stuff to it. And I just remember listening to it and thinking like, man, this song is good, or this album is good from start to finish. Like, it's just, it really dialed in the vision. And since, you know, I've only been listening to them for a couple of months, so since discovering this album, I've gone back and listened to, you know, their classic stuff, which is great. They have a newer album. This came out in 2016. Their newest album, I think, came out in 2018, 2019. It's great. They're a great band. They're a great contemporary band, and I'm excited to see them once, you know, bands start playing again.
I definitely look into it.
I definitely want to like.
Sounds prog to me, man.
Yeah.
Sounds like a prog band to me.
Yeah. Check it out.
Sweet.
I think you'd like it.
I'm sure I would.
All right.
Excellent. I love this one because I'm like, this is all not shit that I like. Not that I'm saying it's not stuff that I wouldn't expect out of you. It's
right.
just, I love the fact that our lists are so different.
Right.
This is great.
I'm guessing there might be a crossover here.
Maybe soon. Maybe soon.
Yeah.
But probably not right at this specific moment.
All right.
Here's one that, you know, all of the folks that know me and my tastes and temperaments will understand to the full degree. My love for ambient and down-tempo, simplistic music. I mean, it doesn't go any further than this absolute masterpiece everyone knows about, Brian Eno's ambient series. There's 4 of them. This was the first one. 1977, I want to say, I'm pretty sure. 78, pardon me. And just absolute perfection. 4 tracks.
Right.
4 tracks. The first one, the first track itself takes up practically almost the entire A side, to where the second track on the A side is just kind of almost like, I wouldn't say an outro, but just kind of like a second thought
Sure.
to that first thought.
Right.
And then it just kind of peters out after
Right.
3.5, 4.5 minutes, something like that. The whole album, you know, ringing true to what, you know, spatial music is supposed to be about, and how it's supposed to just be something that just, it adds to an environment. It adds as just part of, you know, like the birds sitting on the wire chirping, that kind of thing. Absolute perfection. It's entitled Music for Airports, which I don't know if maybe that's kind of just a tongue-in-cheek kind of like a funny kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you know, it's not meant to be taken literally,
Sure.
I don't think, but
He's,
you know,
he's British, so
I mean,
it's got
yeah,
that
the
right.
interesting humor,
Right.
you know, wonderful humor. I love British humor. But yeah, you know, cool, intriguing artwork of the kind of topographic view down from an airplane, like one would see of all these estuaries and rivers or whatever. But you know, the idea went through this whole conceptual design of his, you know, first, second, third, fourth part series that he did all the way up through 82, I think. But this one, just like I said, absolute perfection. The first track, something very special that my mother and I shared together. I mean, it just, to me, just these 4 tones just going over, it just sounds like a wind chime on a back porch on a sunny summer day,
Right.
while you're just like sitting on that back porch with the people you love, or you know, whatever's going on. It just like, it brings a feeling of absolute peace and solace, and that's why I love this type of music so much. It brings out that just real, just like mellow temperament, and it takes me to a wonderful place. A ne'er-do-wrong type of album. Yeah, just absolute perfection.
And I mean, how many people have created a genre? Like, he literally created a genre.
In a sense.
Right.
In a sense.
Right.
He, in a smattering of, you know,
Sure.
Japanese gentlemen and stuff that
Sure,
were
right.
kind of like forwarding the genre in the electronic sense, but he, like you said, like
Right.
spatial music.
Right.
You know, ambient spatial music meant to be not even really enjoyed. Just
For sure.
there. Just in the moment, part of the environment.
And to go from his solo, you know, glammy kind of
Yeah.
rock
Yeah.
to that
Yeah.
is incredible.
Which I'm people who are Brian Eno fans are going to get really upset with me, but I'm not a fan. I'm not a, you know, taking Tiger Mountain by whatever.
I love that album.
And I know a lot of people really do, and
Yeah.
all the stuff that he did. I mean, he was heavily involved with, you know, Roxy Music,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he produced like a whole bunch of stuff, like
Bowie,
the
he was-
no, yeah, in the
yeah.
no wave scene and all
Sure.
throughout the 70s and 80s and
Yeah.
all that. I don't like any of it.
You like what you like, though.
Totally,
Right?
totally. And I'm just all about his, all of his chill, you know,
Yeah.
all that ambient music is just like really strikes a chord with me.
Right.
So.
Okay, my next pick, let's go back to some electronic rock.
Yes.
It's a band called Lust for Youth. They're from Denmark. And it's this is a self-titled album. It came out 2 years ago. And I heard the first single from it, and I didn't like it. So I was
love the Danes, dude.
Yeah.
I love them. This is one of my favorite shit
Yeah.
out of Denmark. Tell me more.
So they had a musician with them that was on the previous album that I felt like really added to their older stuff. He was definitely more like he's an electronic producer. He goes by the name Croatian Amor, and he quit, and he was only on one album, and so they made this album after he had left. I heard the first single and I was like, I don't care about it. I don't like this. Yeah, whatever. So I decided to check it out again later, and
Same album?
same album,
Yeah.
and was like, well, this is incredible. This is like everything that I like, right? The lyrics are really kind of funny, somewhat sarcastic and insulting on some songs. There's some like really pathetic love songs. My favorite song is called Venus de Milo, and he's just singing about like he's overwhelmed by someone's beauty, and he's just like pathetically wants to hang out with them, and it's definitely like got a European flair to it, right? It's not like
Sounds like some Nick Cave, like inspired.
yeah, but it's synth pop, so it's like a synth pop album. And I saw them live on this tour, which was awesome. I think that they you know when you see a band and you know that they know what their good songs are? Like, I could tell, like, when they were playing the song Venus de Milo, they, like, knew that that was kind of, like, their best song, that they were feeling it. And there's guitar on it. I didn't realize how good the guitar was until I saw them that's on the album. The guy, like, borderline, like, shreds on guitar. Like, and you wouldn't notice that listening to the album. It's kind of like, you know, simple, almost plinky, you know, post-rock vibey guitar, but live he just totally, I was blown away by what a good guitar player he was. And I love synth pop, I love dance music, and this is just a really great like synth pop, dance, rock album. The production is like really good, the vocals are kind of like disembodied and airy, there's not a lot of, you know, again, it's like, it's similar to the Health album. There's not a ton of range. It's a little monotone, but brilliant album. Awesome lyrics. Like, if you like synth pop, like, this is a really incredible album.
Which is generally sans a lot of, you know, real lyrical, you know, prowess. Most, you know,
right.
synth pop that you're going to be listening to isn't going to have like real heady, like lyrical content.
The entire lyrics for the album are on the cover.
Yeah. Is that what all that is?
Yeah, it's
a fine.
Yeah, it's a very fine print. And some of it, I would read it. I don't want to take up too much time, but there's some like really weirdly insulting, like hilarious lyrics mixed with like so forlorn and like loving
Not
stuff.
that specifically type of thing reminds me of you.
Sure.
But the fact that people would enjoy that type, like that reminds me of you. You know what I mean? Like almost like a flair for the avant-garde in the sense, like, yeah.
They're really
I love that about you.
Their aesthetic is they're really into like cycling, like the sport of cycling. Like they're just so European. If you saw pictures of them, you would not.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, they definitely are.
Did they wear bike shorts on stage?
No, but the only merch that they had was like hats with like a cycling brand like logo.
Were they with like the thing that flips up in the front?
No, it was just like a regular baseball hat. It was hilarious. That was the only merch that they had.
Very European.
Yes, very Euro.
Okay.
I feel bad that you saw this cover, but
don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So, okay, moving along. This one, I'm sure you're going to understand.
Yeah.
And this is where I thought the crossover would probably be, is in the midst here.
Oh, sure.
This album is fucking perfect, man.
Right.
Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
This one, I mean, being an exception because I have, this is like the Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab like box set, and it has like an entire extra just one disc. Yeah, sides 5 and 6, unheard of tracks. Like I've never heard of. It was from the same recording session.
Yeah.
Like tons of shit. Like 7 songs I've never even heard of. One song called "Fuck the Universe." Like yeah. Everyone knows of Ryan Adams. This album, Love Is Hell. Give me a fucking break. This album is genius. Absolute genius. I'd never heard of him. I walked into the record store. So this was like what 2008. 2007?
Yeah, maybe even a little bit before.
Maybe even before. It doesn't have the original release date on this, but
definitely that era.
It had to have been right around there.
2006
somewhere.
Yeah.
Because that's when he popped up, but he was a modern country songwriter
what was
in a
his
sense. Wasn't he doing country pop?
Yeah, there was the band that he was in before he went solo was definitely like
weren't they called the Stone Roses or something?
No, Stone Roses are a Manchester
something
proto Britpop.
Who was his backing band there?
I feel like they were called
something
Whiskey
Roses?
Town. No, cold. There's a rose theme.
Something.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
we digress. Anyway, so mid-2000s, I stumbled into a record store. I saw this artwork. That's a lot of, we've talked about how I get grabbed. You know, I've never heard of this artist. I see this really super goofy picture of him split, you know, a portrait of him just coked out of his mind, staring at himself in a mirror or something like that. I took a chance, bought the album, bam, it just taken away. Political Scientist, first track, right?
Yeah.
Political Scientist, playing all his sappy piano tunes. The production value just sounds like a smoky green room in some theater somewhere, or some shithole bar in Manhattan, like. And that's of course what he's, a lot of what he's singing about is just kind of like night culture and love lost and drugs and issues and whatever else that pop stars and rock stars sing about. But it's all very endearing. It's all very touching. and it's not at face value. There's all of that shit that underlying demon, you know, that like everyone knows that, you know, Ryan Adams and a lot of other people, they have their demons and they get caught doing some terrible shit. But whatever else, the guy's an incredible songwriter. One of the best modern day songwriters that I can think of. When you're talking about popular rock, pop rock, the guy, just an absolute mastermind. This album being specifically track to track, just absolute phenom. Everyone's familiar with his cover of the Oasis song.
Yeah, Wonderwall. Which got me into Oasis again later in life.
There's nothing that can get me to like Oasis. Okay. I didn't like him in 1994, and I still don't like him. But
I could try. We could work that out together.
We could try to work it
out. Or not. You like what you like, and you don't like what you don't like.
That's true.
Right.
Couldn't be spoken better. But yeah, considering Wonderwall and what he did with it, that's what made me so happy, was taking a song that I didn't like one bit,
right,
and he takes it and he puts it in a minor key. Boom. It's amazing. It's beautiful. And I don't even think it's in a minor key, but I think he diminishes like one step of one part of it. That maybe he just diminishes that one note. And I believe there's a few other parts of the song where he takes it and he actually puts it in a minor key. But whatever, I could go on about the nuance and logistics of a song forever. I mean, but his the stuff he writes, just like, it's just all over the place. Country, popular, like I said, sad, sappy barroom, stuff that kind of borderlines on what you'd hear in film scores, what you'd hear coming out of Broadway theater. You can tell he was inspired by everything, and what kind of just a dark masterpiece is this? Not always in a dark place though. There's some really uplifting moments. Yeah, some very uplifting moments.
The House Is Not For Sale.
Yeah,
that was my favorite song on the album for a while.
My favorite song is the I See Monsters song.
That's that really dark and heavy song.
Fuck, man, that is so good. And Love, truly, I mean, he nailed it with the title. Love Can Be Hell, Love Is Hell. So that's a perfect album to me. It's perfect in every way, shape, and form.
So this will be my last synth, dance, electronic rock album. It pairs well with Lust for Youth. This band is called The Tough Alliance. They're Swedish. And I also didn't get into them until a couple of years ago. I think this album came out in, I want to say 2006 or 2007. So they kind of they were kind of like the prototype for the later kind of like Euro indie dance genre, as the Nordic. I was like so specific, like the Nordic indie dance genre. But
you're speaking Greek to me, bro. You're speaking Swedish to me.
But this album is incredible from start to finish. There's so many different elements of music in it, in the dance realm. So there's, obviously synth pop, Euro pop. There's some like world dance music. There's dance hall. There's reggae. There's like just a lot of so many influences in it. I was reading up on them, and there's some stuff that I clearly do not understand about hooligan culture, like in Europe. So they would get their shows shut down because they were promoting hooliganism, and they would wield bats and stuff. The music, if you listen to the music and you saw them, there's like nothing, and the name is Tough Alliance. There's a song called Neo-Violence. So they use like violent imagery, but the music is so poppy that you would not put two and two together. So I really don't understand like why they would get in trouble.
Were they being accused of like propaganda or something like that?
Like they were promoting was Wikipedia.
Hooliganism. So that's just like, organized crime, isn't it?
It's just like going to a soccer match and beating people up after the soccer match.
Okay.
So just like they're one video that I think they have a couple of videos, but the main one from this album, it's just two Swedish dudes riding around on a scooter, like in the countryside. Like there's nothing tough about it, but apparently they caused problems when they were a band. Incredible album, start to finish. There's so many. The vocal layering and melodies are incredible on it. You know, for this type of music, there's some like house elements to it. Really great. So if you like synth pop, I know I have several synthy, rock albums on my list. This is great. This is like a summertime album. This is like driving around in your car in the sun or riding your bike in the sun and like hanging out. It's just like a good feeling album.
Nice.
That I like.
Feel good albums.
Feel good. It's called A New Chance. It's not, I printed this out off the internet. It's out of circulation. You can buy it on iTunes or you can listen to it on Spotify. I looked up the price for the CD since it's out of print. It's like $50.
Yeah.
So
sure, an LP would be like $150.
Yeah. But incredible.
I need more feel good music, man. I don't have enough feel good music.
I dabble in it.
You dabble in good feels?
Yeah, it's definitely a feel good album, start to finish. 9 songs, so actually I think it's less than that. I think it's 8.
Short and sweet.
Yep.
Cool. Excellent pick. What's next on mine? Whoa, I think we're about at halfway point. This is a great stopping point. Just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us this evening on the Square This Circle Music channel. Thank you. Give a thumbs up, like, subscribe. Check it out. I'm going to be doing this. I'm probably going to have Nick back again because it's so much fun. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll call someone else and see if they want to talk about some more music. I don't know. I have lots of friends and I have lots of tastes and I have lots of things going on. So let's keep plugging away here. We're talking about perfect albums that are perfect to us. You're going to, of course, understand where I'm coming from with this one. This one is a masterpiece we all know and love so well. I'm talking about Wish You Were Here by none other than Pink Floyd. Why this one, Mage? Why'd you pick this one out of all of them? Why? Come on. It's absolutely perfect. In my opinion, of course, conceptual design.
Sure.
Minimalistic, not minimalistic, but track value. We're talking like, it feels like one long song to me. Okay? I love that. I love the art and presentation. Hypnosis, I believe, right? Hypnosis did a lot of their album art in throughout the early and mid 70s. But it's absolutely perfect. And when it goes through, so it opens with
Shine On You Crazy Diamond.
Does the first part,
yeah,
1
through 4.
1 through 4.
Yep.
And then
I don't want to interject too much.
No, I need help. I need help sometimes. But then going into Welcome to the Machine.
Yeah.
And it just, I'll never forget that because I didn't listen to this in high school. I didn't listen to Pink Floyd in high school.
Yeah.
We were from the 90s where it was kind of like, you weren't shunned, but you were kind of made fun of if you were listening to
hippie
rock
stuff.
of the 70s, hippie shit and whatever. But there was those kids that were the crossover kids that understood. And so we would kind of seek those dudes out and be like, so tell me a bit about this stuff. And you pick and choose what you really gravitate to and what you really love, and you take the Led Zeppelin, you're kind of like, okay, whatever, it's kind of great. But Pink Floyd was one of the staying power. Obviously, they're monumental, one of the greatest, if not, people will call them the greatest of all time rock bands. But in my opinion, this album was their kind of like their first real stepping point into progressive music. Most people will talk about Dark Side of the Moon when talking about progressive rock, and a lot of people will talk about metal when talking about progressive rock because people call Pink Floyd a progressive rock band. I don't. I don't call them a prog band, art rock, psychedelic rock, experimental rock, absolutely 100%. But I don't call them a progressive band. Everything was still rooted and based in blues. Everything was still, predominantly blues-based, jazz-based. That doesn't give me the immediate calling card of being a progressive band. So, sorry for anyone that may be offended by that opinion, but I don't give a shit. This, I feel, was their first stepping into the progressive world. 75, right? Yeah, so it was after Dark Side of the Moon. This was the first one after Dark Side of the Moon. And this was the real, because the synth started getting really heavy. And the conceptual design, I feel like this is far more conceptually driven than Dark Side of the Moon ever was. Dark Side of the Moon is 2 notes. It's A minor and E flat. Yeah. And it's one idea. It's one of Roger Waters. Sure. Yeah. Of course it is. We all love it. One of Roger Waters', darker moments, and that's great. This just being kind of like the, homage to Sid. And I love that, and I appreciate that. Super strong, big, over, all-encompassing, kind of like, it feels like I said, one big long track. And I love all the synthy stuff. I love, the spaced out, space rock jammy aspects of it. That's what I love about Pink Floyd. It's just an absolute gem.
What's your favorite track?
The end. The very end of Shine On. The Crazy Diamonds. Very, very ethereal.
Yeah.
Kind of, I don't know. Welcome to the Machine is fucking
It's good.
amazing.
I'm a Have a Cigar guy.
Have a Cigar's really good.
I really like that.
Really
one.
good.
Title track's good.
I think that's a great way to start the second.
Sure.
The second side. I think that's what they start the second, because they end the A side with Wish You Were Here. And I think that's just a beautiful segue, going from Wish You Were Here to no. They do part 5, 6, 7, and 8 of Shine On You Crazy Diamond before they segue into. I had the sides confused. Yeah, Have a Cigar is the first track on the second side. So yeah, that's fucking killer, dude.
It's a great song. It's not even a member of. I forgot the guy's name. Somebody else sang that song. It's not even a member of Pink Floyd.
You're kidding.
Yep, somebody else.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Fucking thank you.
I didn't know that until a lot later.
You gotta be kidding me.
Serious.
I thought forever that was Roger Waters.
Nuh-uh.
I'm gonna research the shit out of that. That's awesome. I love this. This is so great. So yes, perfect album. I'm learning new things about it every single day. Thank you.
Yeah. So now we're getting into some rock. Some rock.
Yay!
It's another Danish band.
Cool.
I'm just keeping it regional for these last couple of picks. It's a band called Ice Age. So this one just got added to my list yesterday. I would say that it's not perfect.
Cool.
So this was my.
Cool art.
There's one song on it that I don't think is incredible, but all the other songs are incredible.
It's 99% perfect.
It's up there, and I was on the fence about some other stuff, and I just decided to go ahead and put this one on there. The guitar player is one of my favorite contemporary guitar players. I think they're the best contemporary indie rock and roll band that's out there right now. They're putting out a new album next month. They put out a series of singles for the last month. But this album in particular has just so many awesome influences. There's horns on some of the songs. There's some country western riffs. There's some rockabilly stuff. The singing is, the album before this was definitely heavily influenced by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. So there's some of that vocal styling. It's definitely like a mush mouth kind of, I wouldn't call it atonal, but like definitely not caring about singing in key. So there's like, a punk
It's not
rock.
like mumble rapping.
No, but there's some mumbling. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
there's some Euro mumble. In
Like
there.
some Tom Waitsy kind of like.
Yeah, I would say akin to that in a way. But the music is awesome. I saw them on this tour. Again, I love liking an album and then seeing a band, and then you just have more appreciation for the album and the band after that. So even stripped down, just like a 4-piece rock band, for all the embellishments that are on this album live, like the songs are still incredible. And the guitar player is so good. He's just like, I don't feel like a ton of contemporary indie bands or rock bands are like, have a rock and roll influence, is just my opinion. He has like an old school rock and roll influence to his guitar playing. And he covers it up, with some reverb and a lot of distortion, but it's still there. So I don't even think I said the name of the album, Beyondless. So this album, Beyondless, by the band Ice Age, is really good. I'm really excited for their new album. It's coming out next month, and it was produced by Sonic Boom from Spaceman 3. I don't know if you like Spaceman 3.
I'm not sure who they are now.
One of the guys from...
You mentioned Spiritualized earlier. In
Yeah.
the same ilk as Spaceman 3.
So Jay Spaceman from Spaceman 3 started Spiritualized.
Okay.
So it was Sonic Boom, I forgot his real name, and Jay Spaceman were Spaceman 3.
Okay.
So they're great also. very influential.
Crazy,
bands.
drawing parallels. But these guys are Danish.
These are Danish guys, Danish rockers.
What label do you know?
This was on Matador, and I think their new album is on Mexican Summer.
Good, so they're getting signed on American. Well, Mexican Summer is not an American label.
I've never heard of the label.
Mexican Summer, the Dungen. You know, are you familiar with Dungen? He's, I don't think he's, oh, maybe he is. He's Danish.
Huh.
Yeah, he's Danish. Check out Dungen. Yeah, you'll like that. It's the same kind of like, you know, alt rock, but it's instrumental.
Oh,
he's like no, it's not. I lied. He has a lot of instrumental stuff, but it's kind of like more of kind of an indie folk version of who's that popular Australian guy? Oh, damn it, Tame Impala.
Okay.
More of kind of like a folky kind of like Tame Impala, really guitar heavy. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to go off. No, that sounds fucking awesome. I thought I had my fingers on the pulse of like Scandinavian shit. I really did, because I love all that Danish stuff and that Norwegian shit. Like I feature it a lot in all my videos. I don't know if you watched many more of my videos, but awesome. Ice Age. I'm gonna fucking check that out.
Their earlier stuff is a little more. They were more of a punk band before, and then they kind of had like a shoegaze influence, and then the album before this called "Plowing Through the Field of Love" or "Plowing in the Field of Love," something like that. They started to have like a more rock and roll kind of Western influence. Definitely, I'm sure they picked up the Americana vibe from Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. But this album is just a great rock record.
Perfection. Okay, all right. Okay, good. We're this is where you and I are going to start drawing parallels. We're going to start drawing parallels. This is mine of theirs. Okay. This is perfect to me. And I was going through, I mean, because they're one of the greatest bands of all time.
Right.
One of the very greatest bands of all time. And I was going through all of what they've done and how it made me feel. And I was going through the track listings. Nothing feels so good to me as this one, as far as just kind of like, it brings back the best memories for me. I feel it's a solid, I wouldn't say more solid, but it's just kind of like a more like concrete version of what they can do, as far as like their ability to be able to play straightforward alternative rock, experimental, electronica, ambient, soundscape, everything that, I mean, of course, it's the B-sides to the Kid A, right?
They recorded both the albums at the same time.
Did they intend for them to both be standalone albums?
I think at the I might be wrong. I think the original intention.
You got that, didn't you? I might be wrong. That's their right album. From that same era.
I think that they recorded them and intended it to be a double album and decided against it and put all of the more ambient, less accessible stuff on Kid A and released that first. Yeah,
which is what I love most about them. Right. Is not, I wouldn't say inaccessibility, but the stuff that reeks of just kind of the avant and the stuff that's like, this album came out when I was on tour.
Right.
I did drum corps.
Yeah.
So this was the summer I did drum corps, and this came out and I got it while I was on tour. It was this and Lateralis were my two albums that I had on this bus as I was driving across the fucking country, like almost starving, like playing this crazy shit, doing this stuff. And this is what I had, was this and Tool's Lateralis. And this one, I mean, it has such a special place in my heart, but I think it's probably up there as far as their most like unabashed, you know, just unapologetic, like fucking masterpiece, artistic masterpiece. Of course, they're all artistic albums. They're an art rock band, but I feel that this to them was like their first real dive into like art piece.
Sure. What's it called?
Amnesiac?
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't say it.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. It's very small. Radiohead's Amnesiac, 2001. My good friend enlightened me also, again, to the fact that it maybe not released as a B-sides album, but was intended to be a double album to their precursor that year, same year. Wasn't it? Was it 2000?
Kid A was 2000.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say I like this one better than Kid A. I love them both for each for what they are. I feel that this one is absolutely perfect. The Pyramid Song, Spinning Plates, fucking, oh my God. You know what I mean? Knives Out. I think one of their only songs from those two albums that was a single. I believe. I remember
I-
hearing it on the radio, not on the radio, but it was like in
Yeah.
jukeboxes and shit,
Yeah.
in pool halls
Yeah.
and whatever else. But you know, Life in a Glass House, like
Yeah.
the end of
Yeah.
that with the horns, and
Yeah.
they have the Dirty Dozen brass band on this. So
Right.
it's fucking perfect. This
Yeah.
album is absolutely perfect. The artwork is just, you know, I'm pretty sure it's all Tom York. You know, his art styling is
There's
just like,
an artist
give me a
called
fucking break.
Stanley Donley that collaborates with Tom York on all
Yeah.
their art.
I'm sure
So-
a lot of the sketch work was
Yeah.
probably Tom
Yeah.
York. You know, and in the
Or
same
maybe that's the drummer's name. No, that's Phillips Stilwell.
yeah, Phillips is the drummer. But yeah, another band that kind of was heavy in the design of me and this guy. Kind of designed a lot of who we are and our sensibilities and our taste in music come from a lot of this.
Yeah.
So
Well, my next pick, Radiohead.
yeah.
The Bends. So I was thinking when Aaron asked me to come up with 10 perfect albums, some of this is filtered through the lens of what I know Aaron's aesthetic is and what our relationship has been and what we liked together growing up. So I could have picked Pablo Honey. I think Pablo Honey is great. Yeah. But I wanted to pick this one because it really rocks. Like, it's really like an incredible rock album. And it's funny because like I picked this one last week, and then yesterday I saw somebody on Twitter say what's the best song on the Bends, and all these people were listing. They're like, I can't pick what the best song on the Bends is. Or some people were like, this one, and there was like a ton of replies, and all the songs on this album are good. It kind of
It's so strong. Dude.
yeah, it's so strong.
It's so strong.
There's a band called Catherine Wheel that was like a shoegaze band that kind of
I remember Catherine.
yeah, Catherine Wheel was kind of like, I feel like Pablo Honey and Catherine Wheel were similar in aesthetic, and so they decided to kind of go more rock, I guess.
Roots
And
rock.
yeah,
Straight up.
Yeah, and this album is from start to finish. The guitar playing is incredible. The singing is incredible. I know that you've heard this album. I know that you probably have an opinion on Radiohead. Whether you like it or not, I mean, I think this album is perfect. Every song, there's not a song on it where I'm like, oh, that sounds like a previous song on the album. They all sound different. There's different, I don't know, there's like the bombastic kind of like, I read an interview with Tom York where he said he didn't like Fake Plastic Trees because he thought it sounded like November Rain. He's like, oh, it's just too like stock, too stock bombastic, but like that song is incredible. Fake Plastic, no, what did I say? I don't know. Regardless, no matter what the name of the song is, they're still great on this album. So,
I mean, what was so important when you had that kind of roots rock, you know, where they come from? Because yeah, they come from a place of UK punk rock, but they also come from a place of like what was popular in America, like when they were growing up.
Sure.
I've read and seen interviews with him too, and how people were comparing him and their music to Neil Young. And I didn't draw the parallels, and then he didn't either. But then when you hear what they're doing on this album, and some in Pablo Honey, but primarily on this album, you're like, yeah, this is like kind of like a redux of killer 70s rock.
Right.
You know, and it does. It like every song has its own voice, and it's how it's pasted together. That's what 90s rock needed. Because when you have just like a mash of 10 4.5-minute songs, and you're trying to get some speed, you're trying to get some notoriety. How do we put this together as an art piece? That was like a real clever and important thing, especially out of the 90s. Like I said, is album design. How are we going to put all these 4-minute songs together so it's a presentation, you know? And that was kind of like the last of what they were doing in that 90s feel, because when OK Computer hit, it was like, this is just an art, art piece, you know, and it didn't matter how everything was like pasted together.
They dialed back the rock.
They dialed back the rock and made like made a movie. You know what I mean? Like kind of like made a fucking movie. So yeah, I knew that's probably where the parallel you draw would be. It would be the Radiohead, very likely.
And even the song High and Dry, which you know, Tom York doesn't like that song. I think it was he wrote it in a previous band, and they wanted a single for the album. So he's like, they're like, use high and dry. And he's like, okay.
Was that the one you were saying sounded more like he was whining about Blind Melon, or it was Fake Plastic Trees?
Fake Plastic Trees was the one he said. Yeah. It sounded like November Rain by Guns N' Roses. So.
Oh, November Rain.
Yeah.
I thought you meant No Rain by Blind Melon.
Yeah, November Rain.
Oh, November Rain. Okay, now I hear it. Now I hear that. Yeah, November.
So Radiohead, if you haven't heard of them, check them out. Just
in case you haven't heard of this album, this little album called The Bends. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna do a nosedive into the nerdery here, like I like to do. I mean, you've had your fun, you've had your nerd fun. Yeah. This is my super nerd fun, and so all you nerds out there are gonna really get off on this one, and you will too, because this brings back a very wonderful part of our childhood. Not childhood, we were adults. We were adults when this happened, but we were allowed to relive our childhood when this happened. This is a soundtrack to a video game, a very, very famous video game. This is the soundtrack to the music from the Ocarina of Time, the Legend of Zelda game. Came out on the Nintendo 64, 1998. So we had already graduated from high school at this point. We were entering adulthood, but we didn't have any problems still playing video games. No one really does. Everyone knows of the video game. Absolute masterpiece. Well, this dropped a couple years ago, and luckily I snagged up a copy of this before it became like a $200 album.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Dude, embossed in gold, and it's just like, double LP. More importantly, what makes this a perfect album is not it's necessarily its association, obviously, to the music composed from the game. It's how it's put together. When we're talking about classical music, when we're talking about symphonic music, you can take something and you can just play it. You play the music, the notes on the page, there, I did it, and put it, press it to wax, it's done. No, this was taken by a man, I don't even know his name, but you have to do arrangements of things, and you have to make it palatable. It can't just be, you can take these 2.5 minute snippets from the music from the game and just compile them all and do it. Right. This is a full-on, it's a full symphony, and they're doing it all in one sitting. It may not have been recorded all in one sitting, but it was done to where the way it's arranged, it's all a long-standing piece. So someone had to sit down and someone had to take all these little, it's a pastiche, you know what I mean? They had to take all these little themes and paste them together and make an arrangement in a way to where it has cohesion, to where it has, what's the word I'm looking for? The word escapes me right now.
A vibe.
In a sense, an overall vibe, I guess. So that's what's most important. The A side is it's a double disc. So the A and B side is all of the little snippets and moments you have from the game when Link is first waking up and he's a child, and you have like the Hyrule Field theme and all this stuff, and it's all elaborately composed and drawn together to where it all makes sense. The theme from, the ranch, when you go to Lon Lon Ranch, and then, the this and that, and you go to Hyrule Castle. So it's like, as the music's going along, it's how the game is experienced. Really important that way. And so then you have moments where, it's getting more dramatic and thematic, the moments where characters meet for the first time, the first time, he confronts Ganondorf and it gets dark and sinister. And then you put the second disc on. And the second disc is an amalgamation of all of the dungeon music. So you have all the themed dungeon music on the C side, and then the D side is all like one big elaborate end of the game kind of thing. It's the Slovakian orchestra. Please excuse me while I look through the ledger notes. It is the Slovak National Symphonic Orchestra. And a gentleman went and did all of these arrangements, there was a series of them, numerous people. Eric Buchholz did most of the primary arranging, but then there was other people that helped, probably caption heads of the symphony. But just a masterpiece. If you like symphonic music, and of course you appreciate the wonderful, compositions by Koji Kondo, Nintendo composer, super famous. This just tickles every little fancy you got for all that nerd shit, man. It's a fucking masterpiece.
I've never heard of it. Yeah.
Beautiful. It's just beautiful. And not only does it take you, way back to '98 when you were having so much fun experiencing this wonderful game that we love. The players and the compositions, the arrangements themselves, very, very clever and very, very well drawn out. I've heard other renditions of this. Of course, this is monumental music. It's very, very popular. It's all over YouTube. It's all over everything. And people have done their own renditions of this. This is by far the most professional, the best. The man who did the arrangements, and it's just top notch, absolutely top notch. So, yeah, the Ocarina of Time. Yeah, you ought to, man. And the actual. It has an album title. It's not just the music from Ocarina of Time. It's called Hero of Time. Oh. That's the name of the album, Hero of Time, by the Slovakian National Symphony Orchestra.
Very cool.
Very, very cool. Thank you.
All right. So I lied. I have some more electronic dance rock. Yes. It's a band called the Klaxons. Klaxons. It's called Myths of the Near Future. So this album came out in 2007. It was one of the early short-lived cornerstones of the genre called New Rave. So it wasn't necessarily heavily electronic, but they used a lot of bright colors. They had a lot of like day glow, glow sticks at their concerts. They wore a lot of bright colored clothes. To me, it's just an indie dance rock record. And I remember 2 years ago when I could run for 40 minutes, which I can't do now, I would put this album on and I would just be able to run through the whole album. And I remember the first time I did it thinking like, God, this album is great. Like it flows so good. The pacing of the songs, like they're like not all over the place, but there's definitely some like variation in it. There's a song on it. So when I first got into this album when it came out, there's a song called Magic, which I didn't like. I thought it was an annoying song, right? And then I watched the video for Magic. I think it might still be on YouTube. And it made me like the song. So it's just like this kind of like horror scene, but instead of blood, they're using like day glow sticks. So it's like they're spraying like day glow everywhere. It's like coming out of the guy's eyes and mouth. Like, so the aesthetic can be a little dark, but like the music is really upbeat. And there is a cover of an old school rave song called It's Not Over Yet, which was kind of like this is why they're a new rave band, is because they covered this. To me, it's punk, it's dance music, it's indie. I wouldn't say there's a lot of like Britpop influence, like there's a tiny bit of Britpop influence, but man, it's just, it came out in 2007. They put out a couple albums after it and then they disbanded. The album after it I think is great too, but this album from start to finish, man, it's another just like kind of I guess I said it was dark, but there's definitely some like feel good moments in it. It's definitely upbeat.
Sounds like a riot.
It's good.
Man, I love this. This is great.
Just another dance rock record. Apparently.
We're gonna add. I'm gonna take some time and effort, and Nick can help me because I'm a dum. And we're gonna add links in the description. So sure. Links to all this stuff because I've never heard any of this fucking shit that he's bringing me. So mine's all kind of like run of the mill. Maybe not run of the mill, but we'll add the links so you guys can find all this great shit that we're putting out here for you. Getting toward the close here. Yeah. Getting toward the close. Here's one that maybe you might get a little bit kind of like, what? And a lot of you might not, know this about me. But this one's huge because of my upbringing and because no one gives this album enough credit. It gets written off as kind of like, I don't know. I won't try to even begin. This is John Denver's Rocky Mountain High. This album is perfect. It is perfect. Even for people who don't necessarily like or appreciate some of the folk and country stylings that were coming out of the early 70s. A lot of people, he's fodder for everyone's, jest. It's pretty easy to make fun of the guy. When you're known for singing with Muppets, right. It's life ain't easy, but let's talk about some pre-Muppet. Let's talk about pre-Muppet madness here. This album, Oh my God. I mean, the namesake of it, the first track is Rocky Mountain High. The way the man sings, his ability to be able to mirror his own voice, a lot of the harmonies that he's capable of, which he doubles his vocal tracks and sometimes triples his vocal tracks on this album. It even has a lack of like any real studio overproduction value, and it still sounds so like it was recorded around a campfire in the fucking Rocky Mountains. First song, Rocky Mountain High, everyone's familiar with that. It really is a beautiful masterpiece of a song, but then it continues on. He was notorious for covering tunes by very, very famous artists at the time. John Prine song on here. He covered a Beatles song on this album, Mother Nature's Son by, John Lennon and Paul McCartney, but does his own twist on it. It doesn't sound like the Beatles version. It's a very uplifting, very upbeat, down home Virginia type of song, and if he's singing about nature, I mean, that was, prevalent in all of his music that he made, was like singing, I love nature too, and it's very, very hippie. And that's what he gets kind of written off as, just like, oh, he sang with the Muppets and he was kind of a country singer. And it's like, no, the guy, he was a folk singer. He was a hippie, And he goes through these wonderful ballads. A lot of people make fun of, Annie's song.
I think Annie's song is great.
Yeah, and then the other one he wrote for his son, for Bobby. It's called For Baby. That's, one of the ones on the album where I might kind of be like, well, but dude, it's beautiful. Right. It's a lullaby for his son. I mean, give me a break. His singing voice is just angelic. And and then B-side, boom, drop it like it's hot. It's a protest song, a Vietnam protest song called Prisoners. It's in drop D on the fucking acoustic guitar. It fucking rocks. It's a great song. It's a song about Josie. It's like, give me a break. It just keeps going. A song about, leaving his wife, leaving his lover. It's a very touching ballad, and it's actually, he's joined by a woman. I'm not sure who the woman is, but a very beautiful duet ballad. And then he ends the album with what's called the Seasons Suite. And it's what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of a conceptual 4-part, kind of like spring, summer, autumn, winter, going through all the parts of it. It's like a 12-minute, little bit of it's the end of the album. It's just a masterpiece. People give this album way too much shit. They give him way too much shit. He was, true to his form, a beautiful singer, a beautiful guitar player. He was actually a really fucking good guitar player. If you've ever seen any videos of the guy perform, he nailed it. He sang everything while he did it, and I can respect the hell out of that. Out of left field, I consider this to be one of just my perfect albums of all time. I can listen to this over and over and over and over again till the end of time. John Denver's Rocky Mountain High, 1972.
And I felt the way about John Denver that Aaron described before I was driving around with Aaron in that red Blazer. What was that? The truck that you had? It was a Blazer.
Back in like the early aughts.
Yeah.
It was on loan.
yeah. And he would play this album, and I'd be like, wow, John Denver's great. Like, this is a good album, especially the song Prisoners that he talked about. Yeah. And then I started to have like an appreciation for John Denver.
Yeah. So, I mean, then that's kind of like his monumental album. Right. A lot of them get a little bit more kind of floofy and fluffy.
Sure.
And then, and then you make love to Muppets, and then it happens, and you sell your soul. You sell your soul to Jim Henson. Everyone sells their soul to Jim Henson somewhere down the line. Yeah. But God rest his soul. He was an amazing music maker. Is this your last one?
This is my last one.
Let me do a special
special 10.
What do we call it?
Addendum?
No. It'd just be called like a honorable mention.
Okay.
This is an honorable mention before Nick's going to get into his last one, and it just another one of those that's kind of like John Denver to me. It means so much. I just want to, basically the reason I want to bring it up is because I want everyone to know who this artist is, because he's a really amazing composer. He's really important. This is a perfect album, but it's a compilation album of film music by a man named Mark Isham. He's Started out as a jazz trumpeter in many different types of jazz bands all throughout the 70s and early 80s, but then he really gained a lot of notoriety. He hooked up with a really important label in the jazz world called Windham Hill Records and started doing film compositions. And this man's film music is, a sense of the ethereal, a sense of just the otherworldly, open soundscapes. He plays the trumpet, but he also does all the other instrumentation. So it's early 80s, very heavy with like synthesizers, sound effects. We're talking about stuff for film. And there's only 3 films that he highlights on here. And I'm not even familiar with any of these films. Well, I'm not familiar with a film called Mrs. Sulful. But then there was a movie made about Harvey Milk sometime in the 80s. I don't remember hearing about it. But it's called The Times of Harvey Milk. Just amazing music. But more importantly to me, the entire B-side is a theme from the movie Never Cry Wolf, which happens to be my favorite film of all time. It ties for first for me of my favorite 2 movies of all time, called Never Cry Wolf. It's a Disney film. Yeah, make fun of me more, it's fine. But it's an amazing masterpiece of a film. And he composed all the music for that. And like I said, just imagine yourself, if you're familiar with the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about, but just imagine yourself in a tiny airplane flying over the Alaskan tundra or the northern Canadian Kodiak tundra and just seeing open landscape and the music going through your head, and that's what you see. And that's what Mark Isham's music sounds like, just ethereal, just absolute beauty. So I just wanted to bring this out. So this is like my 11th pick. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
I almost had 9.
We're getting into our two top ones, and so I just wanted to bring this. This was a special mention that I was bringing out just in case he and I had 2 coinciding albums, so we both would have brought it out and talked to it. But it got to the very end, and we never did. We never had 2 coinciding albums. Everyone gets some Mark Isham. Mark Isham's phenomenal composer. So here we are, Nick. Let me see. What's your top perfect album of all time?
Okay, so this is an Australian band. So I remember watching one of Aaron's earlier videos, and he talked about liking bands from Australia. And regardless of that, like I always thought this was a perfect album since I've heard it. But it did make me want to include it on the list. It's a band, they're called Hate Rock, but the name is stylized to HTRK. And so this album is called Venus and Leo. So I was watching a documentary on my favorite guitar player, who's an Australian musician called Roland S. Howard, who played guitar in the Birthday Party, who was with Nick Cave. And there's a documentary about his life, and they were interviewing other Australian musicians, and I remember they looked like some D-list musician. I was kind of like being judgmental. I was like, who are these people? I have like no idea who these people are, right? And then I was listening to some Roland S. Howard solo stuff, and there's a song, I think it's called Johnny, or A Girl Named Johnny, that he does a duet with a female singer. So I filed that away in my brain or whatever. And then the singer of the Deftones, Chino Moreno, on Twitter, he tweeted a song from this album. And so I listened to it, and I was like, oh, that's incredible. Like, that's a really incredible song. And then I checked out the album. It's just so minimal and moody, and even the lyrics are really moody, and some of the vocals just sound like one-take vocals. There's not a lot of layering. My favorite song kind of has some vocal layering on it. It's called New Year's Day. It's towards the end of the album. But there's just... it's like a really moody, kind of heavy vibe to it, and she sings about herself a lot. There's like a lot of astrology themes in it. The guitar playing's great, really minimal. The beats are, I'll say minimal again. There's like a lot of 808, just kind of just sparse beats to it, but it's an incredible album. So I rewatched the Roland S. Howard documentary. The people that I thought were D-list musicians were this band. This song, A Girl Named Johnny or whatever, is about her, and they do a duet together. So, again, I'm humbled by my own judgment of musicians and other people that, this album came out in 2019. I didn't even know who they were. Like, I told a couple of friends, I was like, hey, you should check out this album, Venus and Leo. Apparently they've been a band for like 12 years before they put this out. Like they've been around for a while, and I just only recently heard of them a couple of years ago. So Venus and Leo by Hate Rock. I love this album. It's, you know, some of the other albums are, you know, the Tough Alliance is a summer album. This is definitely a winter album. This is like, you want to put it on when you just kind of want to chill out, maybe be a little bit moody, and it's really incredible.
A little pandy vibes.
Yeah,
pandemic vibes.
Definitely. Yeah, it was discovered, you know, by me, you know, 4 months. I think it only came out like 4 months before the pandemic hit. So,
jeez, that's awesome, man. That sounds great. You said they're Australians.
Yeah, they're Australian. Yeah,
Australia's, dude. There's some great shit coming out of
There's
Australia.
some amazing stuff.
I like the psychedelic stuff that's coming out of Australia. I'm really into the psychedelic heavy rock that comes out of Australia, so but I'll check that out.
I listen to a lot of Australian indie lately. Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, and the fact that you was it Mexican Summer we talked about?
Yeah.
I thought they were Australian and Australian.
They could be.
I think they're Danish.
I just know the name.
I
just know that album's coming out.
It's a cool label. So cool. Well, you know that this is going to be underwhelming compared to, you know, your fantastic pile, but this, I mean, duh, you know, it just is what it is. Probably one of my favorite bands of all time, if not my favorite band of all time. Talking about Tool.
Okay.
And I say 10,000 Days.
Okay.
Is their best. I didn't want to make this a topic of like, okay, let's talk about Fear Inoculum. How do you feel? How do you feel?
Yeah, sure.
But
well,
we could go on. We can make it. You and I could talk about. We can make a video. We could do a video of Fear Inoculum, and we could talk for an hour and a half again, probably just that fucking album. That's what these guys mean to me. That's what I'm sure they mean to you too. Mm-hmm. But this one had to be on the perfect albums because it is beginning to end. It's absolutely perfect. The production, the instrumentations, the composition, the players, what they do, what they pull off. Everyone's familiar. Everyone knows what these gentlemen are capable of. I think it has the best art design of all their albums. I think it has the best lyrical content, the best overall conception content. I think it's the most cohesive. I think it's the most well put together. Again, sorry, not trying to compare to their others or their most recent, but it just came up to it. And I was like, I have to put a Tool album on there because it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect, track to track to track. It has, I think, my favorite Tool song on it.
Okay.
Right Into.
Okay.
I think right in, and I mean, talk about an album closer. I mean, they always have those weird little like outro tracks from Anima on. They have the strange kind of like outro, whatever's happening at the end of the album, fun little sound effects, and interviews, and like whatever the fuck they play around with, which is some intriguing shit. You know, the mystique that this band has been able to encompass for 28 years,
right? And
they still maintain a monster of a mystique. I don't know how they do it. Yeah. They're far more in the limelight than they've ever been, obviously, because of their like recent, like what, 14 years between albums or whatever, or 16 or I don't know. But this one, it was 2005, right? 2006. 2006. And our life changed a lot that year. We had a close friend die, lots of things. But this one was just solace. This album is solace to me. I will forever be able to listen to this and get nothing but peace and love from it. I feel love when I put this album on. And it maybe even has some kind of like frustrative, angry moments or whatever. I don't even feel that.
Right.
I feel love from this album. This album just like gives me those vibes. And just the overall presentation, like I said, of everything. And I think it has the best artwork of any other albums, of some of the great rock albums of all time. The pairing up of, you know, Alex Gray and these guys, and just what a match made in heaven that was too.
Right. Talking
about, you know, the concepts and subject matter that they talk about, and how the art, they serve each other so well. It just goes down in history for me as a perfect, absolutely perfect album. I could talk about the tracks. I could talk about this album for an hour.
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel the same way. I have to punctuate it with the fact that I just Fear Inoculum, I wouldn't say I'm underwhelmed. I'm just I just think this one's better.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing that's a little disappointing. Fear Inoculum includes the only Tool song I don't like.
Wow.
I love every single one of their songs. Absolutely adore and love and cherish their entire discography and their entire catalog of tunes. And Fear Inoculum has the one song of theirs that I have an absolute distaste for. I have a feeling Maynard wrote it.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that they're just like, okay, let Maynard
Yeah,
have
let
one.
him have one.
You know, what is the Culling song?
Okay.
Culling Voices, I think it's called.
Right.
Culling Voices. Terrible song. It's terrible. That's just my opinion.
Right, sure.
That's just my opinion. So, like I said, we could talk about this for days and days and days. Maybe even 10,000 days. But it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
It's fucking perfect. So, that's that.
Wow.
That's that. We talked for a long time here.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I want to do that again.
Yeah.
I love your picks. We're going to make sure to include all the links when we have time. I'll make sure Nick emails me or texts me the names of all those. I'll do all the legwork. I'll do the legwork.
Yeah, I can send them to you too.
Yeah. So we'll make sure that everybody has that. This was a great video. Thank you all for hanging around the entire time and chatting about music with us. Our perfect albums. I don't really know if I have much more to say. Do you have anything more you'd like to say, Nick?
I really don't. I just want to say thank you for Aaron letting me kind of horn in on his new creative endeavor. So I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
So signing off. Thank you all again for coming to my channel. Be good to each other. Play your music. Be good to each other. Party on, Nick.
Yeah. Party on, Aaron.